So I'd like to welcome everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. Boyd, would you do our invocation?
Yes, I will pray first. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the opportunities that you give us. Dear Father, we thank you for our country. We thank you for those who have secured our freedoms and those who continue to protect them. We ask that you be with them, with our first responders and all those who protect us daily in our homes and our families. Dear Father, we ask that you grant us wisdom in the conduct of your business, and that you give us peace about the decisions that we make. In your name, in the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
So,
Tabitha, we're good.
I'm gonna, hold on a minute, I've got to do two things here. We're gonna go out of order just a little bit. Tabitha is here. I need to get her in front of everybody because she's got a bunch of auditors in her office. But before we do that, we have to do an election of officers so that we can vote on what Tabitha is gonna put on the table. So I'm gonna put forth a motion that we elect officers here.
I move to elect Dan Nolan as chair of the Industrial Building Authority.
I second that nomination.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, there we have that. We need to elect a vice chair.
Nominate Teresa Filial to move up from secretary to vice chair.
Second. You want to do
I
that?
appreciate it, but you always better on time, Dave. I'll call you early, make sure you're yeah, I do.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have we need to now elect a new secretary?
Nominate Stacy Anderson, she has a pen.
No, I nominate Boyd.
I second Boyd's nomination.
No,
I second Stacy's nomination.
I think so.
Okay, hold on a minute. I can only do one of these at a time, so.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't think I talked about enough. I said I second Boyd's nomination for Stacy. And that,
That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we have two nominations on the table. Need somebody to withdraw one of them, please.
Stacy's going to be the secretary.
there you go.
Who nominated?
I withdraw.
Stacy did.
Thank you.
I withdraw Boyd.
All right, so you've withdrawn Boyd's. Now we have a nomination and a second for Stacy to be secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, somebody get all that.
I got it.
Secretary.
No.
All right, do we have any other officers we have to elect?
Nope.
Okay. Now, Tabitha, you're up.
Okay, well, it's actually Bucky's gonna present. I'm just here to
I'm not gonna be in the way.
support.
Well, actually, if you would, since we're actually on camera, I'd love for you to just give a
Okay.
10-second synopsis of why you have this gentleman here and what he does for
Okay.
us.
Okay. This is Clifford Kinsey. He's with Raymond James, and he has presented an opportunity for us to refinance the 2011 A and B bond issue at a potential fairly high interest savings over the course of the next 12 years. So with that.
I couldn't say it better.
So-
Let's pass these around. if you don't mind.
So very quickly, I just want
You
to,
don't have to call him Clifford, but you call him Bucky.
I want to say for the record, we're going to entertain refinancing the bond because it's the best deal for the citizens of Paulding County at this point. But I do want to make sure that everybody understands that we as a group have decided that we're going to take the proceeds from the film studio and move forward with an economic development project. So that's why we're having a conversation with regard to the refinance of the bond. At that point, this will give us what we feel is a win-win. It's the ability to drive some commercial economic development for the county, as well as save the taxpayers money on the bond.
Now, are we extending the bonds that we already have, or just refinancing the ones?
Just refinancing is what we're talking about today.
Okay.
And the reason that is because the interest rates are dipping way down.
Okay. Yeah.
What I just passed out to y'all is a debt service schedule as of June 24th. We talked to Tabitha several months ago prior to running those numbers right there. and told her we thought that we could save some money if we refunded. Refunding's our term, but it's just like refinancing your house. It's purely based on interest rate movement, and the lower the interest rates go, the higher the savings are. And Tabitha has, she understands this stuff backwards and forwards. She ought to be making this presentation herself, but she is one of the best CFOs that we deal with, and she's very quick on the uptake and knows what's going on. But she said, yes, I want to run this by our folks because I think they would like to see if we could save some money. And so we started that process at that point. Now, I'm going to hand out something else here that, and Dan, you mentioned to me when I got here today, talking about interest rates at an all-time low. And I'm in the bond business, but I hadn't heard that that's what the rates were yet because I was out of town on business. But in this, the first one that I showed you was showed a $500 and something thousand savings. I had got
598, 246, 91.
Yeah, 598 and 596. I call it $600,000. The one that we're looking at today, or as of August 26th, a couple of days ago, is an $853,000 savings. And frankly,
Probably be lower today, or more, probably higher
it'd be
today.
higher today if rates are down today. And rates in our business move every day. It's minor moves, but here recently, there's just been so many things that's happened in the world that has caused people to want to buy American bonds, which generally drives the interest rate down when there's lots of interest. And part of it is just the economy, the situation in the economy right now. And there's a lot of other reasons for it. We don't have to get into that. All we want to do is save as much money as we can for the authority.
So my question is when if and when we decide to move forward with this and give you the green light, at what point does the rate lock?
The rate locks when we're able to. We're gonna see about doing a private placement with this one. These are taxable bonds, by the way, because of the proceeds were originally done for something that y'all had an interest in making money on. But the bonds we will lock them in at the time that we actually price the bonds, and we have to make a decision about whether or not to do a private placement with a bank, or generally banks are interested in that, which can be done very quickly, or a publicly offered transaction, which will require a preliminary official statement that is a big old thick book that she's been involved with many times, does a great job with, gets all the information that we need. And generally speaking, a publicly offered deal is a better, you get a better interest rate. And so, but the interest rate will be a good interest rate. In fact, on these, when Tom ran these numbers, my associate Tom Owens, he used the market rates as of September 26th, but he added 20 basis points to just have the numbers be well within a range that we actually think that we could do better than this. But you know, I'm not going to commit to anything on that right now. But
Tabitha, what do you prefer, a public or a private placement?
The best interest?
The best interest?
Yeah.
and the most savings. I knew that's what I could tell you that.
So, what's the time frame to do a public offering?
I happen to have a timetable here that I'll pass out to everybody, and this is just this is a very flexible thing at this point, because there's so many things that must, and this is basically for a publicly offered transaction. The difference in the publicly offered and a transaction and the placement is that you can do the placement a lot quicker. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier on Tabitha. It's a lot easier on us, for that matter, but we're not into this to take the easy way out. And we're absolutely committed. We'll do it either way that y'all want to do it. I think heavily relying on Tabitha's feeling about which way to go.
Can I ask you a question though? What are the issuance cost difference between a private placement and a public sale?
Well, we'll still need lawyers either way. we will still need, the documentation that we'll have to get from the tax commissioner and all that stuff, but the cost of issuance will be a little bit less on the placement,
The private placement.
the private placement.
So, can
Because
somebody,
under a private placement, you don't have to do all the notice to potential investors and all that stuff. You deal directly with.
We basically, we generally.
It's basically a pre-sale, right?
Yeah,
To the
it
private.
is generally one purchaser.
Yeah.
And generally, it's a commercial bank, and they, you know, we deal in municipal bonds, which are tax exempt bonds. These are taxable bonds, so it's just basically like making a loan. That's all a bond issue is anyway. It's just sort of a fancy name for a loan.
so am I reading this right, that from $850, it costs about $100,000 to get it all done?
The issuance costs are generally in the neighborhood of I think we ran them at 2.5%, and that includes legal, that includes.
2.5% of the savings, or 2.5%
No,
of the overall bond?
2.5% of the par amount of the bonds, which is
Okay.
like $5.5 million, 2% on that would be $110,000.
So can we get a pretty close pro forma of both options so that we know exactly what we're spending and saving, and we can look at this and make a educated decision? I mean,
Yes,
if you're talking a couple $1,000s difference between a private placement and a public placement is one thing. If we're talking about $80,000 or $100,000, that's the cost of.
just so you'll know, on both of those debt service schedules that I gave you, the cost of issuance, those savings are after the cost of issuance.
Okay.
They are after.
So the
cost of issuance.
852 includes.
It includes, I think we ran them at at 2.5% of the par value, and that's just a general number. I mean, when we finally finish the transaction up, we'll know exactly what the lawyers are charging. We'll know exactly if we have to get a rating, and we probably will get a rating from the rating agency. We'll know exactly what their fees are, and other fees, and underwriter's discount that we typically, we like to charge 1%, but not for Paulding County. We charge lower than that.
Okay.
But there's also a time difference too. A private sale is going to move a lot faster than a public sale, so you have.
Public sale, we have to go through a validation process.
Well, my question is, I mean, I don't think interest rates will tick back up much, but that's the risk you run in a public sale, that the market rate can tick back up during the process. But that's the reason I asked about when we're going to lock it in.
We will lock it in as quickly as we can, and but at the point that we're getting close to being able to either price the bonds on a publicly offered deal or a private placement, we'll know the numbers real quick. It won't be something that will.
Okay.
I don't really think we need to focus on trying to hit the market just at the right time. We got a great market to do this in, and it's going to be big savings unless we do it around for 6 months or something like that, and that would be my fault and my associate's fault, not y'all's. When people are ready to go, we urge them to go, not sit on there.
All right, so I think we'd be foolish not to do this, so.
Yeah, what is D over S? The old net D over S. Debts.
The debt service, I'm not looking at that. This is net new debt service and old debt service. Under this scenario we're looking at right now, this will be the debt service for these new bonds that we're talking about, assuming we were doing this today. The old debt service is what we have right now, and the difference in those two is the savings right here. So 593 minus, with the 664, there's $71,000 in savings in the first year, and then these are the savings right here. So the new debt service is the new lower interest rate figures. The old debt service is what we got right now. I mean, that's not gonna change at all. That's gonna be the same no matter what.
So the only question I would have for you is this, as the advisor. Word on the street, or at least the general sentiment is that the Fed may cut rates another 50 basis points between now and the end of the year, or definitely into the first quarter. If that happens, what impact could that have on this?
It would have no impact on what we do here whenever it is that we do it. That'll be locked in. And I'm going to be real surprised if the Fed lowers interest rates 50 basis points. They might do it another quarter of a point, I think. But I'm speculating there. You're speculating also that if rates went down 50 basis points, we'd save a bunch more money if we want to take that risk. These are good numbers here, though. They're very extraordinarily good numbers, and it's just an unusual opportunity for. We just closed a transaction down in Valdosta yesterday. We closed the deal yesterday. It was a $140 million bond issue that we did for a large hospital, but Lowndes County was putting a tax backing behind it. And at the time that we first started talking with them about doing that, we told them we were pretty confident we could get $10 million in present value savings. This is $140 million
Sure.
bond issue, but when we finally got to the point that we were ready to price the bonds, the savings had changed to $29.3 million in present value savings, and it was purely a result of, we were lucky. I mean, I'd love to say we knew what was going to happen. That'd be a lie. We were lucky. We did everything right, got ourselves in a position to be successful, but then the market really cooperated with. And frankly, those folks down there, I've already had one of them call, so we should have waited a little longer. I said, okay, well, I'm sorry.
It's my question. Because, I mean, even if it does drop another 25 basis points, that's a significant amount of money here.
It is, but if
There's
it's
a
gonna,
big word, if.
but
It's going to happen.
the
They're going to drop it again. They're not going to raise it.
The other point I'd make on that, though, is that if it does occur between now and the time we get these documents ready, we'll have the lower rate scenario then. We're not going to be able to just do this like that. We're going to have to validate the bonds. There's a process that we take, and I've got the timeline, which is something we will change periodically, just because we always have to for whatever the reason is. But it'll probably take us 6 weeks to get this thing closed.
I got a question, Becky. So if, once you go through the validation process, which would require a resolution from the IBA and a resolution from the Board of Commissioners, and once you've done that and we file with Superior Court and we go through the validation process, you're getting at the end of September into the first part of October. If they were to decide that they didn't want to price those bonds, maybe it looks like they are sure that rates are going down, you could put that pricing off 2 weeks or a month even, if that's what.
We would put the pricing off and do it whenever y'all wanted us to do it.
So,
So
I
now,
mean, it
so
wouldn't matter once you
We
went
can
through the
kind of have our cake
process,
and eat
but
it too here
if you-
to see what the next.
if
Fed
you don't
needs.
proceed and you don't go through validation and then you wait to see what's gonna happen, then you've still got that 6-week process that you've got to go
Well,
through.
we ought to go through validation anyway, and that means that we can pull the trigger anytime that we want to after the bonds have been validated. But I think as the process moves along, we'll be able to see where we are in the rate scenario. We can't avoid doing some of the things that take a little bit of time. And although the placement.
That makes sense.
The placement would take some of that risk out of play if we did that.
What do you guys want to do?
Make a motion that we proceed.
For sure, but do we want to make the decision about private placement or public auction now?
I think we need to.
That's gonna be,
I really think that ought to, I think that's,
To wait.
we don't have to make that decision, man.
Right.
We don't,
We
okay.
do not have to
We
make
had
that
a
decision.
second.
Great. All right.
And then check the market.
So we've got a motion to proceed. Can I get a second?
Second.
How we're gonna, motion to proceed on the refinance of the bond. Okay, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys for your time. Tabitha, you're welcome to
Thanks.
get on out of here if you need to.
Okay, I appreciate that.
When will
Yes,
y'all
ma'am.
bring us for bids? Next meeting? Next meeting?
It's on the timeline, and I think it is the 19th of September, I think, is when it's on the,
And y'all meet the last Thursday, that's, we've had a lot of discussion about that.
and you will have a meeting in September, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. See you, nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
No, that's the true mayor, I
Yeah,
just,
and you know, he's a Vandy guy, but we'll.
I know.
We'll let him be a Georgia fan.
Any points for y'all?
Yes, sir, my pleasure.
I take 40.
thank you.
Okay,
So this weekend, finish up then?
everybody got your packet this week? Did you take the time to look at your minutes?
I did.
All right, we have actually two sets of minutes. June 27th and July the 3rd. So may I get a motion to accept June 27th minutes as written, or are there any changes?
Move to approve as printed.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I will abstain, I was absent from that meeting.
Yes, you're the reason we had to have a call meeting, because you weren't here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, the July 3rd call meeting, any changes to those minutes? Can I get a motion to accept? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous? All right, we did election of officers. Robert, you want to give us a director's report?
Can do. We've got several things going on. Can announce the film studio is alive and kicking. They have a couple productions going now. I think I just saw the numbers yesterday. They have 10 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees. So on the employment side, that's really nice. Enroll has broken ground on their new building. They're in the process of clearing property and working on the infrastructure. They hope to be in that building early spring, I think. So those are the 2 projects. We've got a couple more projects I can't really talk about, but we do have 2 more projects I'll talk about in closed session a little bit. Pretty exciting projects. One's a retail project and the other one is a housing project. So we'll fill you in a little bit deeper on that in closed session.
Like a tour of Enroll whenever it gets to a place that's put a bug in your ear.
Okay? We'll set that up.
Okay, so we did the election of officers. You done? You done? Okay. We did the election of officers. I just want to make a quick comment. With Robert rolling off of the board and becoming an employee of the office here, we have an open seat which Dave has filled. Next month, Tommy Morris will join us on the IBA. I spoke to him this morning. He accepted and said it was good to tell everybody that he was going to be on board for both the IBA and the Airport Authority. And I need a motion to move to executive session.
I move to enter executive session for purposes of litigation, real estate, and personnel.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thursday.
All right, let's get a motion moved back into, call the meeting back to order here.
Well, we closed executive session, so you can report that we have closed executive.
We have closed executive session.
And
Thank you.
Following discussion in executive session, I make a motion that the IBA authorize expenditure up to $25,000 on parcel B18 as part of the due diligence for the geotechnical survey, the phase 1 environmental, and certain clearing for access for those test sites.
May I get a second to that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. New business? Anybody got new business?
Yes,
they want to do?
Actually, following a discussion with Stacy last Friday, or the Friday before last, I guess now, let me do a little historical review and y'all just chime in. You know, the EDO had its meetings in here and its function and its purpose, its mission, and the IBA usually met at the chamber for a long period of time, and it has its own separate mission. And the chamber has its own mission. And what you and I were talking about is we need to reestablish what our purposes are, and there's a lot going on with the EDO right now as far as finding that right director and the new board working together. And this is just kind of a heads up from a IBA board member that we need to get that back established and get in our own lanes, although, you know, we're on the same interstate working together. But, you know, we had our EDO director that had all kinds of qualifications, but I've said this before, I don't think he really got in gear, and I would even take some of the credit for not being a better promoter of what Mr. Reynolds needed to do. I felt like he got in gear when Robert Kraus came over from the IBA and said, hey, let's pull this wagon together, which is good, but again, they had different roles. So the IBA was constituted in 1962 by state government to be the financial arm of the county and to be able to do things that would promote and provide jobs and economic development. Well, we kind of merged the two together. In fact, I think that's even the verb that we used, that we were going to bring the IBA together and they were going to do things together. But we need to get this delineated again, and the IBA be the IBA and the EDO be the EDO. That we all understand what the differences are. So what are some other comments, Stacy? I thought you had some good comments that Friday we talked.
I think we're still kind of working on the model that's going to work best for the community with the establishment of, you know, we have to have a marketing arm, we have to have the financing arm. We all have to play fair and play nice and work together, but we definitely don't need three, and counting the county, 4 competing entities. We ultimately have to all support each other and pull together. We're all a marketing team when you look at it in that perspective. But I think there was some muddling when you looked at the combination of what we were trying to do with the one director who had been the EDO director, who was then the IBA director, and was trying to fill 2 roles. And it did take the IBA stepping up and stepping in, specifically Kraus, to kind of see some movement in either of those areas. So going forward, I hope with the, like Dave mentioned, the redevelopment of the EDO and the restructure that's currently going through, that in the next few weeks, few months, you're going to see a more clear divide onto whose role is what. I mean, the Chamber's role has always been to support and advocate for business growth and development in the community, and we do a great job. We've got an amazing workforce development program that very few people are even aware of the connections and what we're doing. You know, we're instrumental with the College Career Academy, working with them and still helping them with some advisory board member suggestions and anything they need. We've got an industry survey that we were using as part of a business retention expansion program that just a few years ago, right after I was hired, I actually started doing that in conjunction with the then EDO. So, you know, there's some opportunities and amazing things that can happen when we all kind of redefine our roles, know what they are, and work in that direction, yet never lose sight that we're working together, all for the joint goal of smart growth for Paulding. I don't think it needs to rest in any one person's arms or one person's opinion as this is the right thing for us. It's more about pulling the right people together to have very strong plan, strategic plan, strategic input as to what we want to see Holden be, and then work in that direction together, unified. I think that was kind of the gist of our discussion.
There may not be a need for the IBA to meet more than once a quarter, because there's no financial dealings or there's no proposal. As busy as things seem right now, definitely will need to. But, and really we're the same place we've been for the last couple of years, because Robert is taking on both what he's doing the day-to-day, and he's here the director of the IBA today this meeting. So it's not like we've changed any from what we've been doing for 2 years, but I just want to see it get back reestablished with everybody knows their purpose in this effort to produce growth and economic development strategically in Paulding County.
Well, right now it seems like the Airport Authority, the IBA, and the Board of Commissioners and Stacy's group at the Chamber are all moving in the right direction together. It's been there's been, and I'll take just this geotechnical piece that we're talking about for this new project here in the county. I reached out to two county commissioners to help vet that and make sure that we had the right vendors for the job, and they willingly gave their time and effort to help us get to the right place with that. It was nice to be able to utilize that resource with people who have relationships in the county. We're seeing the same thing at the Airport Authority with how the process is working over there. I absolutely think you're on the right track. I don't see any reason that this board, once we've got the EDO nailed down and a person identified to drive that boat, that we need to be doing that function. I think Robert will be an integral part as our director with that process. He sits on that board. He can be the conduit back to this board for what needs to happen. And if we can get to once a quarter, that's great. If we need to meet more than that, that's great. We'll keep the last Thursday of the month open and we'll call it as we need to. But I don't have any objection to what you're proposing. I don't know that anybody else on the board does either.
Really, all I'm proposing is that we get back to what our root reason for being is.
Yep.
Well, one thing I'll bring up is that 3 years ago, when I came on board, Robert was the Economic Development Director. He wasn't the IBA Director. The IBA was pretty much done. They weren't funded by all the entities. The county was still funding them through an IGA, but they weren't funded by the cities any longer. And they were basically running out of money. I mean, they weren't going to have enough money. So we talked to Robert about moving over and consolidating the EDO and the IBA under one umbrella, under his directorship. And we went to the county and said, we don't want the money. We don't need that $200 and some thousand that the county was putting up annually to the EDO. We said we don't need that. The IBA has income. We don't need funding for the IBA. We don't need funding. So for the last 3 years, the county has not had to fund economic development. We've done it internally. We did it off the lease payments to the studio. We've operated off of the monies that we made. So the county's not put a dime as far as economic development and IBA goes for the last 3 years. They're going to change that.
But contrary to that, there hasn't been a ton of economic development.
Well, there has and there hasn't. There has and there hasn't. The lead-up time to get something started, as y'all know, we talked about it today, is atrocious. You work for months and years on these deals, and then last minute things fall through or change. So we started from scratch when Robert came over. We spent an inordinate amount of time selling that film studio. Y'all, that was a tough sale. Finding the right people to take that property that we felt like would do something. Oh, we had a bunch of people offer to come out here and manage it and run it and use it and split the profits with us. And we knew that was not a valid, that was never going to go anywhere. But to find those people, we talked to a lot of people. about that studio. And to find somebody that was committed to coming out here and actually operating a film studio in Paulding County, there just wasn't a big long list of those folks. Luckily we found Swirl with the right place at the right time. The same thing with the Interroll deal. We worked the Interroll deal for almost 2 years before we convinced them to, they wanted to expand, but not necessarily here. It wasn't a done deal, they were going to come here. They had other properties and other entities around the country they could have gone to. So we worked really hard for those 2 years on just those 2 projects. And a couple others. We had a couple others that fell through. We had another huge project for the industrial park that at the last minute fell through. So it's not that nothing was going on, it's just we never got anything across the line. And that was just a fact of life. So things are changed. We've got a lot of traffic now. We get a lot of calls. I've had a lot of calls in the last couple of weeks. People wanting to locate businesses here. People looking. Everybody's looking for a 20,000 square foot building. I mean, we get calls every week. Somebody looking for 10 or 20,000 square foot building, just empty space, and we just don't have it. There's not a 20,000 square foot piece of property in the county. So those are the things that we're working on. We've got, we're going to have some pretty exciting announcements in the next couple of months. And
well, with that said, how much over the 20 hours of your contract are you working?
you don't want to know. Well, I knew I would start now. I've probably put a good solid 25 to 30 hours a week in here. Some of it was just getting things called up and me figuring out how things operated, getting all the buildings straightened out where that's taken care of. And I spent a lot of time on this new site and on, as you know, I've been in a dozen meetings in the last couple of weeks. Like there's a meeting every 2 or 3 days. But it's starting to kind of settle down where it's a little more manageable.
Well, and I think that'll be more clearly defined, as we say, in the next few weeks, once
Yeah.
that EDO situation is figured out, that you have that marketing arm, you have that financing arm, you have maybe the chamber's arm is the retention role.
Mhm.
I mean, however we define it, I think that's going to clearly state what your
Yeah.
purpose is as a.
So my question is this, where are we at in the process of identifying a person to fill the EDO role?
I'm not on that board. 2 of our commissioners are. And the last interview series, we talked to a lot of those that didn't reveal anybody that was the cream that rose to the top to take us down the future trail here.
So do we have a timeline that we're going, I mean, at some point we've got to move this ball down the field and get it done.
I agree, but I also think you've got the county committed to help fund economic development, and have, a commitment to do it. But I think we need to be very good stewards of the taxpayers' money that is going to be used to do that. And unless it's the correct model, I don't think it needs to be rushed. I think we need to wait and see, I mean, personally, that's a personal opinion, but I think we need to wait and see what is going to be the best and where we all kind of fit in that piece of the puzzle before we think that it's going to take a certain amount of dollars to do that. I think it's got to be what's in the best interest of the community first and foremost, and then that includes the taxpayers' dollars it's going to take to do economic development. I would personally hope within the next few
Right.
weeks we have.
So if we're informing the public, where are we at in that process?
I believe the last information that was relayed to the public is that we were looking at some type of, this is from memory, I don't know, maybe it was in an August, September timeframe, that an update would need to be made at that point. We were kind of working on things until August, September timeframe, which we're right up on.
We just haven't found the person yet. The bottom line is, these people are not a dime a dozen. They're just not that many economic developers out there that are at the top of their game, which is what we're looking for. There are some out there.
Have we undershot the budget, Robert?
I can't say yes, I can't say no. I think we may have to tweak it a little bit if we're going to get the caliber of person we want. These guys are 2 and 3 year people. They
Yeah,
come
and
in,
that's my concern. I don't want someone coming in who doesn't have a passion to serve our community.
Right.
Who's coming for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Who in 2 years is gonna leave and go somewhere else and leave us at this process to start all over again.
Right.
So, you know, I
and that's who you're
But
going,
that's the nature of the game. They're all like superstar free agents in professional sports.
exactly.
They come in, they know how to hit a certain pitcher, or they know how to work with a quarterback, and they do things for several years, and they boost their stats, and then they move on.
Well, and second to that, we're gonna go through an election next year. If you hire somebody between now and then, and the election brings to light something different in that group of people, all the way around, mayors, county commissioners, you know, Dave's position, that kind of thing, you know, as those things change, so do these. So I guess, you know, we try to find a 10-year person, but at the end of the day,
There's not one of them.
there's, you never.
okay. But what I'm getting to say is, at the end of the day, we're losing time, and I think, you know, if in this job market, you may not find the perfect person, you may just need to hire the best person that you can find.
Well, the whole thing is complicated by the fact that we are basically a stepchild in the economic development world. People usually have a background in one of two areas. They are in the tier 1 counties, where they know what all the state incentives are, and all the programs that are available, and assistance and free money and grants and things that go to tier 1. And then, or they're used to working in big counties where they generate huge amounts of income. And we're stuck in that middle part. We've got a high median income for our residents, but we don't have a lot of industry. We don't have a large commercial and industrial tax base. It is something that is developed over a 50-year period, basically. And so they have to have a niche in that kind of market, but they also have to have a desire, because it's going to take a lot of different strategies to move here, because it's not clear cut one way or the other. We're right in the middle.
What do you say that it's not having the infrastructure as far as sewer and everything?
We have the infrastructure. We have great infrastructure. But what we don't have, it's all been consumed by residential. We are a victim of our location, and there have been missed opportunities. The other big thing Andrews does greatly is not having an interstate. We're the largest county in population that does not have an interstate connection or traverse our county. So that hinders logistics, that hinders everything else that goes with that, and that's where a lot of those people have, you know, made their name is in attracting big industries like that. You can drive all over Georgia. You can drive on some of these state routes that are built to interstate standards, and you see things you think, how in the world did they locate here? Incentives, multi-jurisdictional development authorities. You go out east of Atlanta, you got 4 counties out there. Monticello's part of it, but there are 4 counties that have joined in. They all own property on the corner. Walton County's part of that too, but they take advantage of each other's status and locate and their facilities, and they're attracting big business.
Which goes back to us establishing who we are, what we have, and what we want, what we need.
We're gonna have
Get
to,
somebody, we're not.
yeah, we're gonna have to spend some money and do some studies to figure out where we can even put some of this stuff, where we can even offer it up. What we're looking at on this site, we're looking at doing is one of the few sites that was even in the county that was even available to buy, to look at. And that had all the pieces in play that it had to have. Some of them weren't in play until yesterday or Tuesday. So it's difficult. But we need to identify. Dave and I have talked about this. We need to look at every corner in the county and see what the viability of putting sewer to it is. Ridge Road was a prime example of that. That should have been developed a long, long time ago.
Well, Ernest Barrett was laughed at in the
Yeah.
60s and 70s when he looped water and sewer in Cobb County.
County.
And they thought he'd lost his mind going to Ackworth and Kennesaw and all those places, and a little bitty place called Kennesaw State Junior College. And you see now what those benefits are, so.
On systems that have long since been paid for.
Oh yeah, and you see, you know, people say all the time, talk about us. We want to look like Woodstock. Well, you need about 5 times the number of buildings in your town core. We don't have but about 21 facilities that are useful for retail and restaurant purposes. We want to be this or that. You don't have it, and you don't have a nighttime population that takes advantage of it. You've got to get those people working here out of their vehicles, spending an hour and a half every morning and every evening traveling back and forth. They need to have a job here where they can come and enjoy those things. But when they get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and they're worn out and the kids got school the next day, it doesn't promote that. They can't just walk around the corner and do that at that
Well,
time.
they're not here during the day.
Right.
That's why we don't have a bigger retail than we have, is because a good percentage of your population, almost half of them, are somewhere else. They're not here to take their lunch break.
80% almost of
Yeah.
your working
Working
population drives outside this county.
Only 20,000 jobs in the whole county. That's it. So, and 10,000 of those are filled by people that don't live here. So, you've got a real low population density that are here during the day to even go shop or go out to eat lunch or whatever. So, and like I say, when
And
they get
then
home,
you try to drive density, either in single-family dwellings or whatever, or in apartments. Nobody wants that, but that's one of the key ingredients. So you got to look at the whole equation, and nothing happens overnight. It's not, there's not going to be a miracle pill that we take.
No. But we are grouped together and we're moving in the right direction. And, I think this economic development position, whether, there's somebody like, I don't know if y'all know David Hankerson, but he's consultant now. He was the county manager in Cobb County. But there are people out there. Jim Ewing, his wife was killed on the trail, and he used to be state economic development. That a solution will fall out here, hopefully, near term than long term. So, I have full confidence in our EDO board, and they're working together also.
I do too, and I'm appreciative that nothing's been rushed and pushed, and especially from the BOC side of things, because we're consulting with the right people. We're bringing in, the state, the Georgia Economic Development. We're working closely with Georgia Power. We're reaching out to all these experts and getting their opinions and their input before any type of formal model.
I'm not suggesting we're rushing. I just want to make sure that
Oh, I know, but I think
that we're moving.
we're moving right. I don't
appreciate
want
the discussion, because it's helpful for some of us that do not sit on the board to know what's going
Yeah.
on. So
I don't want anybody to think we're just sitting or that nothing's being done. It's just, I was the first to say, if I'm going to be a part of this, I'm not going to rush it, because I'd rather it be done right the first time than have a third failure, in my opinion.
The
So,
updates are very much appreciated, enough by me anyway.
Okay, any other new business? Okay, we will move on to public comment. Sue?
Robert, I was going to ask what your status on the IBA is, but based on this meeting, I can tell you've been hired as the interim director. I may be mistaken, but I don't recall a public vote to hire him. And isn't it required? I remember when Robert Reynolds was voted on to be hired by y'all.
I don't know that you would have to vote on the interim director. I have a contract, a specific period contract for 3 months. So I'm not sure that would have to be voted on.
And if,
It's
and
it's
if
a
it,
Kraus Consulting.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and if it needs to be disclosed, that's not a problem. I
Yeah.
mean,
There wasn't anything we're trying to keep secret, it's
Yeah.
just,
Well,
they just,
I realize that.
might have been
But you
a
can,
penalty of that, but.
I'm sure you can
I think
appreciate.
we, and I think we asked that question of Tom, and he said it was not necessary to vote on it publicly. We need to go
Since
back,
it was an interim.
need to go back and text him. Thank you.
Why is
But-
it that Terry Tibbetts has been voted in
Because
as
he is,
interim
he is the
director?
actual airport director, he's not an interim director.
He was initially.
Well, I wasn't around for that, Sue, so I don't know, but we did ask the question, and I'm pretty sure we got an answer, but I'll leave myself the 2%
And also,
out in case I misunderstood that. But,
okay, just want to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And as far as Tom Morrison's or Morris's appointment to this board, is that something, Mr. Carmichael, you plan on bringing to the BOC to vote on?
It's not required according to our legislation, but typically, I did that with Robert after he had actually served for a couple of years, just because I like to have the full board inclusion. But it's my understanding that legally it's not required, so.
Has the lawsuit that the BOC filed a few years ago against the IBA for not taking their vote into account for an appointment, is that still pending, that lawsuit, or has that been dropped?
It's just holding pattern there.
Okay.
It's never been
Well,
acted on really.
well, clearly then it's an issue. So my feeling is why not err on the side of caution, and bring it up for a vote. But
I mean, to answer your question, I don't know that David has an issue giving, put Tom's name forth. I don't know that it'll make a difference one way or the other, but I mean, that's, I'll defer to you, and if you decide you want to do that, then that's fine, but, based on legal counsel, that's not required.
Dan, were you voted on and approved to
was
be
I?
put on this board?
Was I voted on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but I came in clearly under a different, program.
which should mean absolutely nothing.
Well,
Okay, especially with a pending lawsuit on this very issue.
That could never even be heard.
That's not the
You can call it
point,
a pending
Dave.
lawsuit.
That's not the point. It was never resolved. So.
do you have, are you making an issue with Robert being the interim director or Tom becoming a member of the IBA?
Right now, what I'm referring to is Tom not being voted onto the IBA board by the BOC. I don't feel, to take the position that it's not required is a fair one, because that's never been resolved. There are arguments on both sides. And then, if Tom's sure that, Tom Cable is sure that Robert doesn't have to be voted on, that's fine, but it seems like a contradiction to things that have been done in the past.
Well, in the past, it's been voted on. It's not that I have to have it voted on. I don't have to.
Judge and jury.
Well, like I said, it's unresolved.
Guys, I'm happy to put forth a vote on this if we feel like this is what needs to happen. I don't have any issue. Do you?
I move to affirm the contract with Kraus Consulting for the interim operation of the Industrial Building Authority.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Do I give it?
No, you don't. But would you be so kind as to provide that contract for public? Do we put that out for public
It's
consumption?
available under,
Yeah, so
Information.
Robert, please give that to,
Tom's got it.
okay,
He's
and
got
you
it.
guys make it available to anybody who'd like to see it. It's not a
all they have
problem.
to do is ask for it.
Yep, there you go.
I move to adjourn.
Oh, hold on.
Well, thank you for taking the vote. Rather painless.
How about Mr. Morris now? Do we
We don't have anything to do with that. That's the Board of
That's just- okay,
Commissioners'
that's
jobs.
just-
And ever how they interpret that, we get who is sent to us. There are three of us that serve by the nature of our offices, by the Constitutional Act, and then the others are appointed in whatever way they have
Approval
determined.
of them, I just wanna.
There's no objection from this board to have Tommy voted on, if that's what the.
We don't
what
have that
Dave and-
authority.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we don't have any objection to it, so I
It's
don't
not our-
have any
it's not
issue
our-
with it one way or
Okay,
the
I
other.
just wanna make sure we get it done today,
So,
you know.
well, we don't,
You have to
we,
do something.
we don't, what, the question Sue is raising is, does David need to put forth a vote in front of the Board of Commissioners to approve Tommy
Dave
Morris?
says he really does a good appointment,
Yeah,
good
it-
appointment.
It's a varied interpretation of whether the head means just the chairman or the head means the whole Board of Commissioners. And like I said before, Robert had been serving, we put him on it, he was voted, he voted on Dan. So I really lean toward putting Tommy on there also. But again, I just want to point, it's not required, it's not decided by any judge right now.
But we'll let you decide how you want to handle
I don't
that. Fair
think
enough?
that this discussion is germane to our business because it has no import with us.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Any other, Sue, do you have anything
I'm
else?
good, thank you.
Anybody else have any open comment?
This whole last Thursday of the month thing, can we just set it as the fourth Thursday of the month, just for ongoing clarification? It just gets confusing when we have, what, 2 months out of the year that we hit a fifth Thursday. It just is confusing. I was led to believe this meeting was last week. And can we just say fourth Thursday and not last Thursday? Does anybody have?
Does anybody have any objection to
I mean, I
fourth or
just
last?
thought about that. because-
Make motions, basically.
Okay, can I make a motion to say that this meeting is set on the fourth Thursday of every month?
The only reason we did it was because, it was my selfish reason, because we had the PBA breakfast on that day. We all came, ate breakfast, we cleared the table off, we did the IBA meeting. The only other thing that I would tell you is, by having it on that last Thursday, you pick up all the business that happens in that whole month. If you have it on the fourth Thursday, then you're gonna have a week, maybe 2 weeks of the month left that you're gonna have to roll over into the end of the next month. Maybe not be a problem, but if you're paying bills or authorizing payment or something like that, it just keeps you at the end of the month as far as the business goes.
It keeps you following the Board of Commissioners. minutes,
Right,
too.
exactly. It keeps it behind the board
For
commission.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So that was the biggest reason we moved it to the last Thursday of the month. Now, what is there, 3, 5 Friday months in a year? Or
I thought there was 2, but-
There's 3 or 4, whatever there is. Only happens 3 or 4 times
I
a
know
year.
there are 4th, 5th Sundays,
Fourth.
because I can't.
Okay,
One of those.
so we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Do we need to wait for Dave to come back? We'll wait for Dave to come back.
Was anybody else confused by that last week?
No, you were the only one.
Okay, then maybe I should go back to blonde.
Just trying to
I
make
mean, sorry.
Leave upset.
No,
I do
this is
think
fine.
it's important to follow to meet after the Board of Commissioners have that usually, just for that purpose.
I mean, is that, you
Is
think,
that gonna be, is there gonna be conflict at any time?
because they're every,
They're second and fourth
Second.
Tuesday,
I was working, okay.
so there would be times on the fourth.
The second,
fifth
fourth
Thursday would be after their meeting. You're always assured of being after their meeting.
if it's the last
Last Thursday.
Thursday of the month. Then I'll withdraw my motion if that be the case. And I'll
I'll
just,
just. Tell you what we did.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Here's your-